you need that?
Look at what time it is. All right.
Join the company.
Kevin, I'm going to start. All right, thank you. I would like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk,
Supervisor Moore.
Present.
Councilwoman McNamara. Present. Councilman Iacilli.
Present.
Councilman Pell.
Present.
Councilman Scavone.
Present.
All right, we need a motion to approve the minutes from the January 23rd meeting.
Motion.
No, we
No.
don't have to do
No.
that.
We're just looking at it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. Jeez,
We'll do
where
that
are we?
next
What day
week.
is it?
We all knew. Don't worry about it.
All right, so go back into work session mode.
It does say it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Draft agenda.
let's see. All right, well, we have public notices, food request proposal, report from the comptroller, and then we'll have now 6 public hearings. We're all familiar with what's
Do you want
You
to
got
just
two
read
more,
off the
just
public
walked on.
hearings?
Okay, do that.
Those are for the 27th.
Okay.
We were talking about the date of the notices. When they're
Oh, the new
scheduled
ones
for.
are for the 27th,
Yes.
not
Yeah,
for
no, I know,
this-
but I was
Oh,
just saying
okay.
you should read these off.
All right, Bill, so there'll be a public hearing to consider the acquisition of 4 Red Creek Road in the hamlet of Hampton Bays and to amend the CPF project plan and CPF management and stewardship plan to include the property. A second public hearing to consider extending Southampton Town Code, Chapter 314, entitled Moratorium on Battery Energy Storage Systems by amending Section 314-4 entitled Moratorium Period to extend for another 6-month period. A third public hearing for the siting and construction of a community sewage treatment plant and associated collection and conveyance system in the hamlet of Riverside. And the fourth public hearing is to consider establishing a sewer district known as the Riverside Sewer District in the hamlet of Riverside.
Are we gonna have a,
Are these add-ons?
for the Riverside public hearing, are we gonna have, some type of form up in Riverside on this?
Well, I don't believe we made arrangements to do that. You know.
I think this was, Janice can answer that, but I think this was in connection with a grant application.
Okay.
There was a timing issue in terms of having the district in place before they were eligible for the grant money. But, you know, certainly if you want to have a forum at some point in time
Yeah, I think
associated, you could
he's-
do that.
In
I
the
think
fall,
s-
Janice did appear, just so you know, before you all were here, Janice did meet with Franca, and it was well-attended and supported. You know, Cindy was there, Rick was there. And so the people in Flanders, they want to know when. That was the message that we
Yeah.
got. Flanders, Riverside, Northampton.
Yeah, they always like to have an update. Mostly it's just a form for update.
You can
Will
always
do.
do that.
Yeah, we could do
It's
that.
your prerogative to do that.
In conjunction with this, and it's a good idea, and we're going to be doing a lot more work in the Riverside
Right,
area.
yeah, because they deserve it.
All right, so should we just get started with the resolutions?
Sure.
Review.
Town Board Resolution 45552, co-sponsored with Councilman Pell, to amend the Water Quality Improvement Project Funding Award Contract with Research Foundation for the State University of New York for the Peconic Estuary Partnership.
Town Board Resolution 45574, authorizing the submittal of a grant application to the New York State Companion Animal Capital Fund for Southampton Animal Shelter Kennel Upgrade Project.
I'd like to be co-sponsor on that too.
Me as well.
Ditto. I'd like to co-sponsor as well.
The whole board. This is clerk time.
Well, I am.
I need to hear it from the councilman himself. You can't add him without his permission.
Yes, I was going to say that before Bill chimed. Thank you,
I just
Councilman.
wanted to make the
Okay. Town Board Resolution 45462, authorize the office supply purchases from Staples Contract and Commercial LLC using the Sourcewell contract.
45454, authorized purchase of Fisher spread from Suffolk County Brake Service using the Sourcewell contract.
Town Board Resolution ID 45233, authorized purchase of snowplow and spreader parts from Suffolk County contract with Trias Inc.
Town Board Resolution 45520, to authorize the purchase of traffic signal installation and modification with Hinc Electrical Contractor from the Suffolk County contract. Town Board Resolution 45235, to authorize the purchase of aftermarket vehicle parts from Genuine Parts Company, DBA Napa Auto Parts, using Sourcewell contract.
Skipped one.
There was one above that.
Scrivener's error here.
You missed 45234 on the bottom of page 8.
Oh, that's me. Before I go back and read the one I missed, Sandy, this, a Scrivener's error.
There's a
Just having
typo.
Trouble hearing.
There's a typo in the one that the supervisor just called it out.
What page?
It's on the
Page 9.
second page, 10.
The second
Um,
page?
The first resolved, after the word, second line, purchases of aftermarket vehicles, should say parts.
Got it. Thank
So
you.
I'm going back to read Town Board Resolution ID number 45234. Authorizing purchases from Omnia Partners contract with Amazon Services LLC. Thank you, Councilman. Lysil, for pointing that out. Town Board Resolution 45518. Authorized purchases of groundskeeping, repair, parts, service, and accessories using Suffolk County contracts with Northeast Equipment, Inc., Montage Enterprises, All Island Equipment Corp., Malvasi Equipment Company, Inc., Finch Turf, Inc., and Store Tractor Company. Town Board Resolution ID number 45519, authorized purchases of process service local from One World Judicial Services, Inc., using Suffolk County contract. And Town Board Resolution ID 45534, to authorize purchases of replacement heavy-duty brake and truck parts using Town of Huntington contracts with AA Systems Truck and Bus LLC, Choice Distribution, Inc., Gabrielli Truck Sales Limited, and Suffolk County Brake Service, Inc. Town Board Resolution ID number 45222, authorized purchases of technology solutions from GovConnection, Inc., DBA Connection, Public Sector Solutions, using Omnia contract.
Town Board Resolution 45559, authorize the supervisor to execute a 2024 cooperative agreement with neighboring villages for town to provide shared computer services.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45558, authorized supervisor to execute a 2024 contract with Risk Strategies Company, Inc., to provide actuarial services to the town.
And there's a typo on that one.
Yeah, this one has, Sunday, on page 15, in the first resolve, the last line, we were taking out the language, if doing so in the best interest of the town.
I'm
And this
sorry,
one slipped
just-
through the cracks.
We're on page 15 in the first resolved,
Last line.
last line. So just getting rid of if doing so is in the best interest of the town?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45494, authorized supervisor to execute a contract with First Coastal Corp. For professional consulting services as it relates to the North Sea Beach Colony Beach Erosion Control District Nourishment Project pursuant to Town Law 202-B. And these fees would be paid for by the Erosion Control District.
Could I be added as a co-sponsor to that?
Same, Madam Clerk. I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Myself, too.
You may as well add me as well.
Thought it, I didn't say.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45522, authorized supervisor to sign an agreement with Suffolk County to develop and implement an essential shopping assistance program for older adult citizens. Town Board Resolution ID number 45544, authorize supervisor to sign contract extension with J Mill Management, Inc. for the 2024 summer season for a concession at Ponquag Beach, Hampton Bays.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45521, to authorize the purchase of law enforcement safety equipment and supplies from the Albany County contract number RFB-2023-148 with Galls LLC.
And I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor to that. Thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45230, authorize the purchase of milk and dairy products from the New York State OGS contract with Primo Land Dairies LLC.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45231, to authorize the purchase of road salt, treated salt, and emergency standby road salt from the New York State OGS contract with Atlantic Salt, Inc.
Town Board Resolution 45453, authorize the purchase of vehicles and equipment parts related products from NYS OGS contract with United Ordered Supply of Syracuse West, Inc.
Town Board Resolution 45476, authorizing the supervisor to execute a 2024 stewardship agreement.
Town Board Resolution 45473, authorize the supervisor to execute a consulting agreement with Lisa Combrink Esquire to provide professional services to the Community Preservation Department.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45598, authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with First Coastal Corporation and Coastal Science and Engineering for coastal engineering services in connection with the Bridgehampton Beach Erosion Control District Phase 2.
I'd like to co-sponsor that with her, too.
Likewise, Cindy, and the next one.
Same here.
Sure, co-sponsor.
I'll add us to the next one, too.
Yes, the next
Town
one,
Board
too.
Resolution ID number 45599, to authorize the supervisor to execute a contract with First Coastal Corporation and Coastal Science and Engineering for coastal engineering services in connection with the Sagaponack Beach Erosion Control District Phase 2.
Town Board Resolution 45523, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara, authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with Young Associates for a survey for Sagaponack Farm topping properties located on 771 and PO 791, Sagaponack Main Street, PO 135 Gibson Lane, 26, and PO 60 Daniels Lane, Sagaponack.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45474, co-sponsored with Councilman Iacilli, authorize the supervisor to execute an amended contract with NV5 for construction management of the Hampton Bays Bicycle Lane and Multi-Use Trail in the town of Southampton.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
And myself, too.
I was the original sponsor of this back in the day.
I'd like to be added to that, too. Could you tell us where the trails are going to be? Do you have a,
It's a combination of trails that
Description.
connects Good Ground Park along with Red Creek Park, and it includes, we're gonna have to go through woods over there, as well as on-road, which is gonna entail striping, signage, and, to make it a bike lane on Old Riverhead Road and up to Red Creek Park.
that'll be a nice feature.
Yes.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45489, authorize the supervisor to sign 2024 community program grants.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to co-sponsor that resolution.
Certainly.
And
Tell-
so would I.
So is I, too.
Does everybody want to be added to all these grant awards?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Okay.
So the next several
Yes.
Okay.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45481, authorize the supervisor to sign 2024 cultural arts and recreation grants. Town Board Resolution ID number 45490, authorize the supervisor to sign 2024 Hamlet Services grants. And Town Board Resolution ID number 45486, authorize the supervisor to sign 2024 Human Services grants.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45537, to authorize the supervisor to sign a 2024 agreement with Munistat Services, Inc.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45536, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone, authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with Electronics Systems for monthly monitoring of the alarm systems contained at all plants located in the Hampton Bays Water District.
Town Board Resolution 45475, authorizing the supervisors, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone, authorizing the supervisor to sign an agreement with City Span Technologies for software renewal for the town's youth bureau.
Town Board Resolution, excuse me, 4554, authorize the supervisor to sign any and all documents with Leasing Service Center, DBA National Cooperative Leasing of NLC for leasing purchase of Gap Vac truck from the Suffolk County Brake Service using Sourcewell contract. It's a new vac truck for the highway.
So this is a
a
lease-to-own
lease.
situation,
Yes.
so it will own it at the end of the period?
Yes,
Yeah, that's
it's a cheaper way to buy a vehicle right now. Town Board Resolution 45439, Councilman Appel, also with Councilman, can't say it last name.
McNamara.
Declare item surplus for authorized dispose of vehicles and equipment. There might be one vehicle we might take off, but we won't know until later in the week. But might be swapped over to the highway department
okay.
to save money.
Town Board Resolution, oh, they think they can repair it enough to
Yeah,
even
we
use
build a
it?
truck, yeah. We're cheaper than buying a
good.
brand
We'll know
new truck.
before Tuesday?
Yeah.
Just so we don't surplus
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Will we know before
Mark.
Tuesday?
Yes.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45533 to recall and amend Resolution number 2023-1521 award and authorize the supervisor to sign a contract for vehicle graphics with Fisher Signs and Shirts LLC. And this was just being renewed. It was an option to renew that was missing from the contract, so we're gonna just amend it and include that.
Town Board Resolution ID 45535, co-sponsored with Councilman Scavone. Recall and amend Resolution Number 2024-85, authorize the supervisor to sign a one-year contract with Hatch for maintenance parts and labor for the Hampton Bays Water District. And it was just changing a GL code.
Town Board Resolution 45514, sponsored also with Councilman McMahon, awarded and authorize the supervisor to sign contract for furnish and delivery of soda oils, lubricant, and grease with Lubricant LLC, West Hampton Auto Supply, and Grade A Petroleum Corp. Town Board Resolution 45600, also with McMahon, Moore, Izella, and Scavone. Authorize the supervisor to sign the right of entry agreement with the Army.
This is for the FIMP program.
Yes. Very important.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45576, co-sponsored by Councilman Pell, Councilwoman McNamara, Councilman Isili, Councilman Scavone, to reject all bids for A, general construction, B, HVAC construction, C, electrical and fire alarm construction, D, plumbing construction, E, fire suppression system construction for the West Hampton Community Center.
And this is needed, this is needed because there is a time limit on the bids, and we've exceeded that time limit, so we officially have to reject the bids. Can we let that?
It's a matter of policy from a legal perspective. There is a 45-day, which is why it was off the last time we've had that conversation. We had already passed it at the last agenda, but you are extending beyond that, and in order to allow the people who have bid to know one way or the other, so that they perhaps can take on other jobs and stuff. I mean, that's a determination for the board, but I think that was the thought process. It's not a legal requirement necessarily that you
Okay.
do this, but more of a policy
Right,
consideration.
and as I understand it, once you're past the 45 days, they then do not necessarily have to honor their bids because
Correct.
we're out of the 45 days. We may want to think about this one, just to keep these bids in place while we're considering what we're doing over there.
Town Board Resolution 45502, notice of bid for drainage, construction of 2024. Town Board Resolution 45443, 2024 notice of bid for furnished and installed asphalt concrete.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45491, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone, 2024 notice to bidders for Hampton Bays Water District tank washing.
As discussed today.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45563, 2024 notice to bidders for the removal of abandoned junk and decommissioned vehicles. Town Board Resolution ID number 45542, 2024 notice to bidders for Southampton Head Start Facility expansion.
I'd like to be
Be
added
added
as
to
a
that?
co-sponsor.
Myself too.
I'll be at it as well.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45583, bond authorization of $5 million for the acquisition of permanent easements for rights in land. And this is for the easements in connection with the FIMP, and this is 100% reimbursable from the government. But we need to advance the money, so we'll have to bond for it. But as you'll see in the next resolution, we're not gonna actually borrow the whole $5 million because we'll pay the money out in stages and then be reimbursed. So the next one is for Town Board Resolution ID
Could I
number.
co-sponsor this one? Cindy, 45583, excuse me, Supervisor.
Yes.
45585 is to amend the 2024-2028 capital budget for FIMP Coastal Risk Reduction Project for the $2 million that we probably will actually borrow with a band.
And co-sponsor, please.
I'd like to co-sponsor that, please.
Myself too.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45256 to amend the 2023 adopted budget for special events. And Town Board Resolution ID number 45565 to amend the 2023 adopted budget for ambulance districts for the cost of the LoSAP special election.
I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor. This is the special election that was held on December 6th. That was run by the clerk's office. Again, thank you, Sunday, and all of your folks over there.
My pleasure.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45564 to amend the 2024 adopted budget to reimburse the Highway Department for truck repairs.
Like to co-sponsor that.
These are just the budget transfers. Town Board Resolution ID number 45468 to appoint, co-sponsored by Councilwoman McNamara, Councilman Iacilli, Councilman Pell, Councilman Schiavone, to appoint the 2024 Citizens Advisory Committee members.
Town Board Resolution 45422, appointing members to the Affirmative Action Task Force for 2024. And then we have Town Board Resolution 45515, appointing members to the Anti-Bias Task Force Committee for 2024.
Town Board Resolution 45567, appointing Community Housing Fund Advisory Board for 2024. Co-sponsor with Councilman Iacilli.
Town Board Resolution ID 45538, appoint Trades Advisory Committee for 2024. Town Board Resolution ID 45555, appoint Trails Advisory Board for 2024.
I'd like to co-sponsor that with Councilwoman McNamara.
I would like to do that too.
Town Board Resolution 45480, a resolution creating a traffic mitigation and safety task force. So this was a sort of project of mine. I'm glad to see that this is coming to fruition. We do have a traffic crisis in Southampton town, and while we might not get all of the answers, this will certainly bring wonderful minds together in one space to work on a final report that will provide recommendations to us in terms of how we proceed and what we can do short-term and long-term. The task force will survive for 6 months. We'll have 6 meetings, and we have a variety of folks who will be appointed to that task force, and that's actually the following resolution, Town Board Resolution 45602. Resolution amending resolution 2023-1448. Is that correct,
Yes,
Council?
yes.
Okay. And we will have, actually, the DPW Commissioner from the county, appointed by Suffolk County Executive Ed Romaine, on our task force, which is really important given the County Road 39 study that is taking place, and will also leverage the town to provide input on this really critically important effort. So I would appreciate my colleagues' support on this.
I'll co-sponsor that with him.
The first one, 45480, I'd like to
Yeah.
sponsor that one, Sunday.
Okay, I'm sorry, just stay with me for a second. The first one, okay.
Thank you
Okay.
for your hard work.
Sunday,
on
can you
this.
add me to 80 also?
80, okay.
And you said you.
And Scavone.
Yes, myself too.
Thank you for your hard work on this. And I think, Mike, it's really gonna be a great idea because there's not gonna be one solution, but a lot of different solutions, and you're putting a lot of people together in the room every month to talk and generate ideas, and that's great.
And there's a end date.
And there's an end
And
dee.
there's an end
Right,
date.
so
Yeah,
it's
that's
a
perfect.
narrow focus, which I think is really important. And I would just like to say also, Councilwoman McNamara held a sort of a brainstorming meeting with the chief of police, with our town engineer, with public safety, with respect to Hampton Bays, Ponquag Avenue, just to try to figure out what we could do short term. And that was a great exercise in sort of seeing our highway superintendent, Charlie McCardle, and Tom Horton from the town engineer, come together to come up with a solution. And also Councilman Pell and I joined Charlie McCardle in the West Hampton School District to discuss some of the necessary traffic improvements that need to be made in the Remsenburg community. So, that was another exercise demonstrating how we can look at certain areas, come up with some short-term solutions. What's great about this task force is we'll also come up with long-term solutions as well, thinking about housing and transportation. So thank you to the both of you, and obviously Maria and Tommy John for your support with that.
Now, was there someone who wanted to add themselves to 45602? I thought I heard someone. Was that you?
Yes,
Yes, okay, thank you.
thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45467, co-sponsor with Councilman Schiavone. Accept payment for hazmat cost recovery associated with response at 6 Ashwood Court, North Sea, Town of Southampton, New York, at the tax map as noted in the resolution, on or about June 12, 2023, and allocate to responding agencies. This was a enforcement action we had last year, and it was thankfully run through, because it run through the town, and Sean Cambridge has worked on this in the Justice Department. We're able to actually recover costs for some of these fire departments that wouldn't be able to they wouldn't be able to basically get these costs back on their own, but because it ran through the town, we can, give them back the
great.
funding that they expended.
That's great. Town Board Resolution ID number 45517, continuation of legal services by Campolo, Middleton, and McCormick LLP as it relates to litigation filed against the town of Southampton involving River Rock Structured Capital LLC for 2024. Town Board Resolution ID number 45516, continuation of legal services by Devitt Spellman Barrett LLP for 2024.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45464, co-sponsored with the Councilman Iacilli. Authorization of cost reimbursement waiver for Hampton Bays High School Class of 2024 Commencement Parade held on June 24th, 2024, from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. Town Board Resolution ID number 45452, co-sponsored with the Councilman Iacilli. Authorize waiver of Parks and Recreation Facility use fee for Hampton Bays High School Class of 2024 Commencement Parade.
Town Board Resolution 45424, designating October 1st as Shinnecock Heritage Day in the town of Southampton. This is something else that is a long time coming. We were founded in the 1600s, 1640, as our seal indicates. However, the Shinnecock Nation has been here since before that, beyond that time, and they received federal recognition as a sovereign national tribe in 2010. And I think, to honor that particular moment and also celebrate the heritage and contributions of the nation and the people of the nation, I think is a great show of respect, obviously, but a way that we can open the door to future collaboration, which I think will be very important for all of us moving forward in Southampton Town. So I look forward to everybody's support on this resolution.
Thank you for working on that, and
thank you.
we'll have to come up with something to do for that day.
Correct. Yes.
Madam Clerk, I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Myself too.
Cindy, could you have me as well?
Yes.
Okay, Town Board Resolution 45571 to accept the maintenance bond in connection with a site plan application, special exception for Jetty Holdings LLC. Town Board Resolution ID number 45460 to accept the resignation of Sergey Kityev, automotive equipment operator in Highway. Town Board Resolution ID number 45465 to accept the retirement of Elaine Jambensky, custodial worker 2 in municipal works.
Scrivener's error. Estimated total payout.
Do you see that, Cindy? The word total is misspelled.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
In that 45465, under financial impact, the word total is missing the L. Thank you.
Financial, the L?
It says estimated tota.
It's a Scrivener's error.
The total, yes, okay, got it.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45286, accept the retirement of Marilyn Hubbard, cashier in the Building Department. Town Board Resolution ID number 45541, to appoint Amy Hayes to Record Management Assistant position from Civil Service list. Town Board Resolution ID number 45575, to appoint Jenna Walney to Driver Messenger in the town's clerk's office.
Sunday, I would like to co-sponsor that.
Thank you.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45586, to appoint Pedro Alegria to Assistant Cook in Senior Services. And Town Board Resolution ID number 45540, to appoint Ronald Castellano to Network and Systems Administrator in IT. Town Board Resolution ID number 45543, to appoint Tatiana Dawson to Senior Office Assistant in General Services.
Town Board Resolution 45531, authorize a conference attendance for the Highway Department.
Town Board Resolution 45562, authorize the attendance of Integrating Communications Assessment and Tactics, ICAT, train the trainer session for law enforcement agencies. Town Board Resolution 45561, authorize attendance at the International Associations of Chiefs of Police, IACP, conference. Town Board Resolution 45560, authorize the attendance at New York Tactical Officers Association, NYTOA, conference.
Town Board Resolution 45472, authorize the drug court judge to attend All Rising Conference. Town Board Resolution 45584, authorize reimbursement for judge to attend at the Office of Courts Administration taken at the Beach Bench Certificate course in Albany, New York, held on December 11th through December 15th, 2023.
Should be 24, right?
I think
Oh,
that
duh.
probably already happened.
Probably already happened, because it's reimbursed.
Okay, Town Board Resolution ID number 45587, to authorize the town engineer, Thomas Houghton, to attend the U.S. Department of Energy Better Buildings, Better Plants Summit. which seems like a really good thing on renewable energy. Town Board Resolution ID number 45440, vacation carryover 2023-2024 excess.
Town Board Resolution 45597, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara. A notice of public hearing on the acquisition of 710 North McGee Street in the hamlet of North Sea and amend the CPF management and stewardship plan to include property.
I like to co-sponsor that too.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45590, co-sponsored with Councilman Scrivoni and Councilman Iafilli. Notice of public hearing to accept donation of an undivided joint ownership interest in the Governor John Adams Dix windmill from the Village of West Hampton Beach, and to amend the CPF stewardship and management plan to include the structure for purposes of historic restoration and preservation.
I love that Fort Dix was named after that man. Town Board Resolution 45594, co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara. Notice of public hearing to consider the acquisition of 38 Second Neck Lane located in the Village of Quogue and amend the CPF project plan and the CPF management plan and stewardship plan to include the property. And Town Board Resolution 45595, also co-sponsored with Councilwoman McNamara. Notice of public hearing to consider the acquisition of 40 Second Neck Lane, located in the Village of Quogue, and to amend the CPF project plan and CPF management plan and stewardship plan to include the property. Town Board Resolution 45471, a notice of public hearing to consider amending Town Code Chapter 325, Wetlands, to update a definition and clarify public hearing newspaper publishing requirements.
What's this about? I didn't know what that is.
It is striking through one additional newspaper. We have an official town newspaper, and it is a practice that we have been undertaking for quite some time. And it was requested that we codify this so that, you know, we're advertising in our official newspaper and not necessarily being required to put it somewhere else.
Oh, I see. That
And
makes
using the
sense.
updated manual.
What?
Excuse me?
And
Using
using the
an up-
most current manual.
And using the most current method. Thank you.
And then there's two walk-on resolutions.
Four.
Four. Oh, yeah, okay. All right,
So,
wait a minute. I didn't look at this yet.
should I read it?
I see two.
Yeah, and then there's two more
there
that
were
we
four.
got
There was
handed.
two more that was just added
There's
on by
two that are on your
Janice
table somewhere.
from Councilwoman McNamara.
The public hearings?
Yes.
Okay, I thought we, all right,
Yeah, he is.
okay, carry on.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Thank you. So this is Town Board Resolution 45603, co-sponsored with Councilman Schiavone, appointing the Sustainable Southampton Green Advisory Committee for 2024. I can say that during our last meeting this week, the committee met, and it was a very productive session. There's going to be an effort by the committee to improve outreach to the community, to the civic groups, to the CACs, which I think is a great step forward for the Sustainability Committee, and I think will be really good for the various communities to hear what the Sustainability Committee is working on, and a lot of this is due to Councilman Tommy John's leadership on this with Councilman Bouvier, but it's nice to see that this is moving in that direction, and it looks like there's great energy from the committee members to move in that direction, and also help the town get critical funding necessary for moving in the direction of renewable energy. So this is it's a great promising future for the committee.
It's a big committee. And they're working on the climate action plan
So-
procedures
so
that
the-
proposed to us?
So they're reviewing the climate action plan as they're looking at it and they're trying to prioritize what aspects of the plan would be most viable for the town. And right now, what I think is sort of a measuring tool is they're looking at what funding is available from the state and the federal government that can help us move forward with various projects. So they're looking at the funding mechanisms that are in place and also ways of improving outreach to the community so that we could get feedback from the community, and then the community can have input and involvement in this committee as well going forward.
And to add on to that, having the climate action plan in place is a necessary step to pursue funding for various initiatives, and that's what they're exploring. They already have a lot of the goals of the climate action plan prioritized, and they're discussing, what would be viable and what would not. Of course, all of that would come to the town board for our review.
Correct.
Well, thank you. That sounds very good. The second walk-on is Town Board Resolution ID number 45604 to reappoint Ronald J. White to the Board of Assessment Review. And Mr. White's the only person that's up for renewal now, and the chair has asked that he continue. And we do have a timing issue that we've been advised that we need to confirm the appointment this month so that they can be sworn in and then they go for training.
If I might just go back to Resolution 45603, I believe there was a Ms. Woodduck who attended the last meeting, Councilman Tommy John, and I don't know if she is on this list.
You can always add her.
We can add her later?
We can
Okay.
put her on later.
All right, thank you.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45605, notice of public hearing, proposed amendment of Chapter 123-14 entitled Stop Work Orders of the Code of the Town of Southampton to enhance enforcement capability. This is a notice of public hearing for our evening meeting on Tuesday, February 27th. This is to allow additional enforcement capabilities for the fire marshal and town code enforcement officials to issue stop work orders, which currently can only be done by a building inspector. It would still require a building inspector to lift that stop work order, and this has the support of both the building department and the public safety office.
I'd like to co-sponsor that too.
Town Board Resolution ID number 45607, notice of public hearing, proposed amendment of Chapter 229-8. This is a public hearing on the same date, February 27th at 6 PM. This is also adding additional individuals that can post a stop work order as issued by the Natural Resource Director, which is Janice Scherer. And again, it's just giving us more availability of staff to issue stop work orders and stop things as they see them, so.
I'll co-sponsor that too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good. That brings us to the next section of the meeting. We're going to get the best moratorium update from our town planner, Janice Scherer. Janice, do you want to come and join us?
Good morning, Janice.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Having me. We have a potential consultant joining us, but we told him 12:30, so we're a little ahead of schedule. But in the meantime, I can update you on yesterday at the Suffolk County Planning Commission. I attended their meeting, and we discussed the moratorium extension of 6 months, to which they voted to approve that. They asked that we come back in 3 months to show what we've done. And that would lead into what I think we should be doing with our consultant, but just as a brief
Janice,
conversation. Yeah.
the town of Babylon is considering a moratorium as well. Were they at the planning commission?
No, it was not on their agenda.
Okay.
This matter was on there with other development and applications.
Mhm.
So they said, in their staff report, the condition was the town shall return to the Suffolk County Planning Commission in 3 months in May to report their progress with updates to their code and on their continued coordination with other Long Island municipalities, if any, which I had mentioned. We were talking to Huntington, Riverhead didn't go ahead. We were, kind of just trying to talk to everybody and see if there's any commonalities that we can explore. And they like that. They're a regional planning group, so of course they would. And that was really it. That's really their only condition, is that we come back in 3 months. But they said, after 6 months, at least 2 of the members were like, we will vote no if you came back in 6 months and said we need another 6
Yeah.
months. But the other members were like, well, come back in, because I said, it's not that easy. Like, you schedule a hearing and then it's a month later. So it's not like you can just do this in 1 second, you know, and I go, and if the board wants to have 2 hearings, now you're talking about 2 months, you know, so we only have 3 months to really work on it.
But they did approve the 6 month extension.
They approved 6 months, but to come back in
Yeah.
3.
I just also would remind the board that obviously you don't always have to do what they're saying, not that this is not a good suggestion, but you always have the ability to disagree with them and override them by a majority plus 1 vote anyway.
But I mean, also, we don't have to wait for the public hearings to start working on this, and we can. be
No,
working
I
on
mean,
this.
if, to enact, changes if
Yeah.
you've wanted to or whatever, to lift that, you know, moratorium is that no one can make application, but the question is, you know, and I told them, we were concerned about, they were talking about the NYSERDA guidelines, so I said, we followed those guidelines, and the truth is that we didn't have a threshold to stop, you know, we didn't know where that was, and that's hopefully where we'll get to in this whole process is, you know, what's appropriate for an industrial zone may not be appropriate for, as you've seen, for areas that are within close proximity to residential or things like that, depending on its size.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah, well,
some
that's
small
good
thing is
news,
one
though.
thing, but a big thing is another thing, so
I mean,
that's
we
the
may
question.
end up looking at having to add a 4th or, you know, another,
Layer, a
Layer in
different
there in
tier
between,
of
yeah.
review, or a different tier of like something.
and I think we all need a better understanding of, you know, you tell somebody 600 kilowatt hours, to envision like what that entails, and from what I'm reading, that could be for a large estate.
Right,
So, I mean, something on a large estate should be handled differently than industrial scale, you know.
right, and so we just said 600 kilowatts or more, because in the model guidelines, the review was not different. So we just said 600 or more, you know, blah, but it is very different, isn't it? So it's really like, what's that other next tier, and those only belong here
I mean,
versus
because you don't
there.
want to say nothing over 600 in a residential and have it be, that's the size you need for this house, right?
Right,
And
So
then tell them they
that's-
can't because they're industrial and they're in a residential area.
right.
Well, thank you for going and representing the town before the planning commission.
Absolutely.
And that's a great result. So now we have some time, we have to use it wisely, but now we can really look at what we're gonna do. And I would like us to form a working group, and I know that some of the other towns have done that. I don't, you know, we had a meeting of the Suffolk County Supervisors Association, and several, Huntington and Southhold said that they have moratoriums in place and that they were likely going to try to extend. And they both formed working groups. And Riverhead doesn't have a moratorium, Brookhaven doesn't have one, but they only allow the best systems in the industrial zone. So, you know, everybody's looking at it, and it's good that we're starting to communicate with the other towns on that. And, but we, you know, we should form our own, so we were thinking to get recommendations from you about who should be in the working group.
Right, and so, well, we, you know, kind of, it wasn't done by bid, but it doesn't have to be if it's under a certain amount, and we were talking to VHB, who's supposed to be here, and I'm sorry that they're not here yet, but to come up with a rough, like, sort of scope of work, and that would revolve around sort of getting together in a kickoff meeting with town representation, and who else would that include? So we can include some other municipalities, LIPA, PSEG, I think should definitely be there. I'm looking to see if they're here, he's here yet.
Our fire marshal.
Fire Marshal, Public Safety.
Does it make sense to have other towns involved in this? I mean, I understand that we need to be hearing from other towns, but specifically our working group. Do you
No, we
think
don't
it's
have to.
something-
You
yeah.
can have that as a wider group. You can structure this however you think is,
Okay.
We could just be in communication with each other.
That's what I think, yeah.
We can just liaison with them and say, here's what we've done, here's what we're doing, here's what we've come up with so far.
Yeah.
We almost, a lot of times, provide a roadmap to them to how to go about this. Sometimes they call us and say, what are you doing? Because they're like, how do we do this? So we help them and we get their input when we need it. So we always have that option to communicate. But I think the team kickoff meeting would be identifying who's on this team, who's, you know, going to work on it. We have had some preliminary meetings, as I've mentioned, so, but Then, as you go to a future task, it's more stakeholder engagement, and that's more of the local community representation, CACs or civics. We can work on that. There was last year, many people were unsatisfied with the level of community engagement surrounding the climate action plan. So like, now's your chance to sort of lay that out so that you get what you want and they get what they want. So we're all on the same page as far as what's going to happen and what the issues are and how you're going to work through them as a group.
Yeah, I think for me, the goal would be to, where are we gonna allow them? What's the limit gonna be on the size? And what are the safety issues? If anybody else has anything in particular, but that's what we
And
could,
education,
and how are we gonna, yeah.
educate the
public
fire department and the surrounding areas.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it should be narrow in scope, so that we have a purpose and a goal to fulfill. I think, zoning is gonna be a key aspect to this. How do we zone for where the placement of these best facilities should be placed? And also fire safety, that I think should be sort of wrapped up in this somehow.
Right.
There's gotta be some sort of comprehensive emergency management plan. I know that there's ongoing discussions. Ryan Murphy did meet with the Sustainability Committee about best facilities and the potential implications and externalities.
Great.
But if we can also link that in with any sort of workshop discussions that
Hi,
occur.
David, please.
Hello.
Nice to see
Nice
you.
to see you. Pleasure.
This
I
is
like-
David Wortman
Good
from
afternoon,
VHB.
Hi, David.
Sorry, we told you
Hello.
12:30, and so you are prompt, but they were
Right.
getting to this
Ready to go.
item,
Okay,
yeah,
I see.
For the
earlier.
record, you
Got
were
it.
early.
Janice,
So Janice, I'd like to, while we're giving input here, I know the state has given some updated rules and regulations on fire code, so of course, all of the state findings should be incorporated in this as well as types of energy storage systems.
Right, so,
Yeah, why
There are a
don't
number of different types, so, that's something I'd like to.
tell us a little, that's right,
So let's
that's a
just-
good segue. Will.
I'm sorry, so I just want to introduce David Wortman from VHB, and maybe just give him a little bit of a background and the team's background, and then we'll just go back to like, sort of what we're saying, task 1, task 2. We kind of jumped into like what we're doing already in task 2, but,
Totally fair.
yeah.
That's great, sure. Again, my name is David Wortman. I'm with the firm VHB. Local office here is in Hop Hog, which is where I'm stationed. I'm the senior environmental manager for our group here. I've got 20 years' experience doing land use and planning and zoning-related work throughout Long Island, including in your town here. Projects of all types, multifamily, mixed use, airport and aviation related, public schools, including your neighbors here. And as well, across that time period, I've had the chance to work on a lot of alternative and renewable energy type projects. And in that sort of capacity, I've also had the pleasure of working with a lot of local agencies and their boards across the island, advising on land use and zoning matters, matters related to environmental impact analysis, which is where a lot of this kind of stuff does tend to come up, is in the environmental review process for projects. And at VHB, I'm supported by a team of engineers and scientists and planners. That's true locally here in our Hop Hog office, where we've got something on the order of about 60 or so professionals providing these types of services. But I'm also plugged in, not to use the pun, to a network of folks throughout VHB's footprint, which is up and down the coast. And one of the benefits that I think we're able to offer related to that is we've got a dedicated team of folks in our energy market that have really an excellent amount of experience in all types of energy-related projects, including battery storage. And so these are folks that sort of live and breathe this stuff on a day-to-day basis, even more so than I can say for myself personally, although I do have good experience there.
So they can inform you if there's something we're saying that's not going to sort of work for the industry in some way, shape, or form.
Yes,
Yeah?
well put, well put. And there's more information about their background. I realize this isn't necessarily a formal interview process, but I just
No.
thought, having that little bit of background is important. And that's exactly right. You know, when you're dealing with something as sort of unique and technical as this topic here, being able to bring those resources in to our local community where we're familiar and we know the landscape, I think is why we feel we have something to offer to help you all as you tackle this topic. Over the past few months, you know, I've had the pleasure of working with the commissioner on, you know, sort of what's on the table, right? What are we looking for? What are the challenges we're trying to address? What do we want to focus on during the ongoing moratorium process? We've looked at what are those resources around VHB land, so to speak, but we've also thought about how do we augment that team and really round it out so that we have, you know, sort of a full scope of expertise available to all. In that regard, we talked to a bunch of folks throughout the industry to kind of zero in on who we thought were great teaming partners that have expertise that go beyond what we can offer ourselves and that pair well. And so we've identified 2 teaming partners, as we would call them. One is an engineering and science firm called Exponent. They've got a full range of battery technology-related services and expertise. They're really well regarded in terms of their knowledge on battery safety and reliability issues. You know, in this capacity, we feel they can help sort of articulate what are, you know, the concerns. When there is a safety concern, how and when, you know, do those happen? And what can be done to prevent them, avoid them, address those. So we think they bring in a unique area of expertise that they can lend to this. There's another group called Waldron Engineering that we've teamed with here. And they're an engineering and construction services group, but they've got a wealth of experience dealing with more traditional utilities, so they understand how the grid functions and those sorts of things. And as well, they have folks that are really focused around all types of energy technology generation, and of course, battery storage. So there's a little bit of material in front of you all here in this proposal that kind of speaks a little bit more to what those expertise are.
I thought you were bringing them.
That's okay. I have a few copies. I'm more than happy to share.
Yeah.
We can get those.
How many? Yeah, I've only got 3 of them here, but certainly it's available electronically
share.
to you all.
Yeah.
There you are. Thank you.
Someone can have mine too.
We can share this one. How's
Yeah,
that?
Keep right on by heart.
And what I'd just say about this, well, first of all, I should mention, representatives of both those groups are available to join remotely. They both committed to being here at 12:30 if needed.
Okay.
It's not
Well, we
necessary,
didn't
it's
sort of
totally up
do-
to you all,
okay.
you know, and.
If you have questions, we can try to,
Exactly,
loop them
right. That's totally fair. What we've done here, and it sounds like you all started talking a little bit through, we've outlined, you know, a sort of like an organized set of step-by-step tasks that we feel are appropriate for the town to consider over the course of the, you know, upcoming couple of months. You know, I just wanted to say, our proposal reflects, you know, sort of where our head is at with, you know, what we think is sort of like a reasonable base level of services and tasks. But by no means are we telling the town, you must do it this way, or that this is what has to be followed in this exact order. We feel that we've captured a lot of the key topics, you know. First and foremost, conducting research, understanding, you know, what information's already available. You mentioned the governor's office's working group, who is, you know, happens to be the hot topic these days, right? Studying some of the same issues that you're grappling with today. And so we think, you know, something that we can help with is organizing and focusing that information and what does it mean to this community? What are the latest developments there, you know, and that sort of thing. We've talked about stakeholder engagement, right? You're going to hear from members of the community. You already are hearing from them, of course. And other stakeholders, including the market, the utilities, certainly emergency management professionals and the folks that are the first responders, if there are fire-related issues and this sort of thing. We expect that the board, you know, to some degree or another, is going to want to incorporate that into the process going forward. And we lay out in this proposal, you know, we offer ourselves, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. Really, we're here to offer our areas of expertise to you, and, make them available to you to use it in the best way you see fit. But again, just to have sort of introduced, that's where this sort of task list, it
Right,
starts on the
so maybe we can focus
22nd
on
page.
task 2 a little bit more.
Yeah, please, let's
Which
do it.
is sort of, they're going to look at our code and everything that went around its adoption, so that and as you know, we follow the nice sort of guidelines, our comp plans and everything, the relevant industry publications related to planning and siting of best facilities and fire safety, regulatory guidance, which he just was saying, all the stuff coming out of the governor's special task force. And then I asked him to add this last one in, the existing land use and zoning patterns throughout the town, so that we can really understand, like, okay, well, here's where the substations are, here's our industrial zones, here's these zones, that zone. And we'll support that work through our GIS department. And maybe the deliverable here is just a higher level summary of like our patterns and, the opportunities. Oh, you've only got, these many parcels that would actually work on the west side, or this many on the east side, some sort of like gauge of where we stand in terms of utility scale. Like you only have X or, whatever it is. So we have a better sense of the SECRA analysis we initially did, identified a lot of different parcels because we were looking at, well, what if a supermarket wanted to put batteries? Or what if, or like a group of shopping center, stores. That's different than just batteries for battery storage from the grid. So we can sort of drill down on that. Yeah, and so that would be a different analysis, I think. And so that's sort of related to task 2. And then come to the county planning commission with me next time to report out on what we've done as we move forward with these interviews, with these teams of people that you want to meet with, minutes, conversations, well, who's going to be at these sort of task force roundtable type things, and what are the outcomes of that. And then that task 3 we kind of touched on, and David, you can talk about that, was just more about, the utilities, the industry, the fire safety people, the communities, those people, that all those groups should have a voice here. And that would be something that they would then report out on, right? Like they would produce an outreach letter, request for input, an agenda, attend those meetings, have a summary, to come back about what, and then this all leads up to like, okay, we've looked at the land use, we've talked to everybody, now we're tinkering and looking at that special exception code, special permit. And that's task 4, if you want to talk about that. Sorry
Yeah,
to
no,
interrupt you.
No,
Just sort of
very
making it
well put.
more like, step by step, yeah.
That's exactly right. And yeah, the stakeholder engagement, what we assume is going to come out of that is, this board at the end of the day understands what a lot of the key issues are. Certainly the community, as you said, is going to have a voice. And there are folks with answers out there, as a matter of fact. And this would be a good venue to receive some of those through
With
some
what?
targeted stakeholder engagement.
There's people in the world of doing this. This may be new to us, but there's a whole world out there that does, have batteries in their communities, and they may say, "Oh, do this, not that." And that's what he means by has answers. Like, there may be a
has
lot
the
of
answer.
questions that come up, but there may be individuals that they can find and glean answers from. So we're not just bumping around in the dark here. We can actually trace down, well, here's what they did in the Cape, and here's what they do in California, and wherever. And we know, best practices. That's, I think, what you're saying.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, once we've received all of that feedback and organized it and, consulted with our team on, what are some of the key considerations around these issues, which of these issues are, of key importance to our town and that land use pattern that we have here. And then where we sort of will meet the road again, right? It would be around the review and making recommendations around whether or not changes are warranted to your existing permitting, scheme, so to speak, for special permits in the town. You know, you're all probably very familiar, but, you know, the buffer requirements for where you're citing these in commercial and industrial zones adjacent to a residential property, right? This is one of the places where you see a lot of friction, a lot of concern. Are those adequate? Do they match what the industry is indicating and what the professionals that understand the key issues around fire safety, et cetera, are recommending? Are they adequate, or do they need to be revised? And this is what we intend to explore throughout the process. Ultimately, again, we'd organize that into a set of what we feel are appropriate recommendations for you to consider going forward.
Then we'll probably come back to another work session after all this and have draft code amendments, because your moratorium is on the old code. That's a stop, hard stop on that, and then you would be, okay, here's the revisions recommended by the consultant after talking to everyone out there. This is what they recommend, and then you still have to vet those and say, you know, this, not that, or whatever it is you're going to do. And then we would set hearings and go forward in the normal way that we do about, you know, if there's any revisions.
As
And all this
recommended
is
by the
going to happen
working,
in 6 months.
as recommended by the working group
Right.
as well, right, the input from.
So we'll have
various
another work
members.
session, right? We'll add a, you know, that he'll come back with recommendations so that you know going forward what this means. You know, look at, you know, redlining a draft to see what that looks like. And then you all can decide, you know, to publish it for hearings, get the community's input. And then whether or not you're gonna adopt it is, you know, solely up to you. So does that sound good?
To start.
I appreciate this. Yeah, this is really thorough, and I like that there are multiple layers, even though sometimes in government, we don't want that, because it slows things down. In this case, it'll help us to gain some clarity on a lot of this, so. I like it.
Do you have any questions or anything you wanna
I just
think
have
about
a
adding?
question on what is the, obviously, we'll be under a 6 month, but what is the
Time.
suggested time frame for all of this to happen?
Sure. So we've been in contact over the course of the initial 6-month period, and certainly we can say it took a little time to sort of wrap our heads around exactly what sorts of things would be appropriate in terms of how we can assist and participate, getting the teaming folks in place. At this stage, though, we've lined all that up. And so if you feel that this set of tasks makes sense, it's logical, appropriate, and the team makes sense, that means that we can very quickly get through formal contracting, and the commissioner and I have been in touch, will remain so, as we, you know, formally kick off and get started. But what I would imagine is that the initial review and research is on the order of a couple of weeks to get fully up to speed. Now we're on the clock, so to
So
speak.
probably less time than it takes us to put together the next group.
Well, we would need your assistance with our contracts to say this is obviously something that should jump ahead, so that we can, if you're satisfied with it, we can jump ahead to get the contract in place, because that's usually the longest. It could take 3 months to get a contract. We don't have 3 months. So we have to get this underway as fast as possible. If you're happy with this task, or if you want to add anything to it, or there's something different that you want it to be, you can digest all this. But if we go forward, then it would just be a resolution. This proposal becomes part of the contract, and we just go straight to contracting, and that's it. And then we can get underway. And then the obvious other part is that you would identify, you know, who's in these you know, we obviously know it's gonna be fire safety, you know, public safety, LIPA, PSCGs, or anyone else, you know, who's gonna be from the town board side, sitting in on these meetings, you know, that kind of stuff.
So
Law
our-
enforcement.
Our goal at this point is to operate within the 6-month moratorium that we're gonna be putting on in a couple of weeks here. However, we don't necessarily have to do that, as council advised us. We certainly want to hit that target, but if we feel that there's new information and new input, and, you know, that it might take a little bit longer, we do have that option as well. And I'm sure the planning commission would be very happy to hear all of this in 3 months' time, that, you know, what we're putting together and what our plan is as well. We want to get it right.
Yeah,
That's fair.
yeah, we're not trying to rush anybody, but at the same
That's fair.
time, you know, if you want to be conservative and say, well, we want battery storage, but we only want it this way or that way, then we just need to identify what is that and where is that? And that's the code. Or you're saying, you know, whatever you're saying, but you want to have some underpinning to what you're saying, and that's the research and recommendations that we're doing here.
And
Janice, if
keeping
we
in
go,
mind, keeping in mind that energy storage, whether, you know, whatever type of energy storage, is part and parcel to moving toward green energy and sustainability in the future. I mean, that,
Right,
you know, has always
right.
been
And I
our
think a lot of
goal
people have
as a-
articulated that
yeah.
and just said, but we don't want megawatt scale anywhere near, it's not appropriate
Mhm.
by our house. And so it's like, okay, we can appreciate that. And what is the scale that is appropriate and where does that go?
And that was the argument that I made when they said just pull it from residential. There's industrial right next to residential, and that's where all the setbacks come into play, so.
Right, we've seen over the years, residential creeping right up against industrial, or right next to, or whatever, and then saying, get rid of that thing next to me, and it's sort of like they were there first, they're industrially zoned, so we have to kind of look at our industrial zones and make sure that we're kind of protecting them to some extent, because the more creep of residential, the less you have industrial, and then you have a whole host of other problems that come in. You know, we'd love to have just a community residential, but it just doesn't, it's not always realistic. There are people here in our community that need that industrial area to do the work that they do. So we can't just get rid of them. But I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
no, that's fine, that was very helpful. You mentioned that the Suffolk County Planning Commission, they approved this last moratorium, but you mentioned that they would like to have us have something in place by the 6-month mark.
Yes.
Right? So what does that look like? Could it just be something in draft form? Does this have to be a fully adopted plan?
I think in
In that-
3 months, we'll return and demonstrate to them where we are.
Okay,
At the end of 6 months, the moratorium is either reestablished or lifted.
Right.
And so they're saying, you know, some people on the planning commission are certainly more like pro-industry.
Yeah.
And they want to say, you know, you're impeding people's rights to proceed under land use codes, let's say. It's
Right.
not just a battery storage, it could be anything. And they don't want you to do that. They want you to allow people to conduct their business, et cetera. There's
Right.
people who look at it through that lens of property rights and allowing people to go forward.
Understood.
And then there's others that say, we understand that this is a big issue, take your time, but come back and let us see what you're doing. We don't wanna just keep extending this forever, we wanna know where you're on a track to.
so I guess my question is if, you know, we hit that 6-month mark and we might need more time, do you imagine that the planning commission will give us more time if we need more time?
Even if they don't, we can override what they say.
But if they see how diligently we're proceeding
just
with
saying.
this.
You didn't
I
let
It's
think
really
that
our
we
You shouldn't be
decision.
worried about letting like the tail wag the dog, like you have to
Sure.
do your due diligence and whatever you're comfortable doing.
Okay.
They would never want to usurp you feeling like your legislative
Right.
prerogative was being impeded by their deadline.
Right.
So whatever time you need is what you need.
Yeah,
If you can,
but they're saying, don't take forever, but come
And you're
back.
sh- and you're gonna
But
be
they are
showing them
not
progress
over you.
toward the
That
goal.
is- Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
just
We're gonna
wanna
show
make
them
sure.
progress, we're
Anyway,
gonna
yeah.
try to get there. If we can't get there and need more time, then we'll go back and say we need more time. And if they say, it was only really 2 out of many others that were saying that. So I think
Okay.
you have, you know, it depends on the makeup of the board and who's going to vote what, but
Fair enough.
I don't see it being a terrible problem, but I also wouldn't want to be disingenuous to them, where I said, we'll do our very best.
Yeah,
And I
and
told
we
them
will.
we're having a consultant here the very next day to go over our scope of work and, you know, so they were happy about that.
Great.
We appreciate the work of the planning board.
Yes.
We will do this in the time
Also,
it
you-
takes us to do this.
If you do have a notice of adoption to continue the moratorium on Tuesday, you have now planning commission approval and the planning board's,
We don't have.
we
planning
have
board
something in
adopted a
writing
resolution.
from the planning board.
if you don't, they'll do it today. They did a draft, we discussed it with them, so I think today they'll have the resolution. So by Tuesday, you will have that.
Oh, good.
Got it.
and if it's the board's pleasure, I can add a resolution adopting the moratorium on for the agenda. If you want to do it as a walk on Tuesday, if you wanted to wait because the hearing is on Tuesday until the following, it's the board's discretion.
When does the moratorium end? The current
I
moratorium.
have to go back, I think
I'd
it was.
like to
They
start it-
said the 13th at the planning commission, but I wasn't sure that that was accurate because
I think it
it
went to
starts
the
when
end
it's
of the
filed
month.
with the
I thought
Secretary
it
of
did
State.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it was the end of the,
I'd rather
I think
put
it was
it on the
March
27th if we
1st or
can.
the 2nd.
No, it's the end of February.
Yeah, the end
Yeah,
of
so
the.
I'd
But the
like-
30 days, because it's 29, I think it's the 1st or the 2nd of March.
I'd like to put it on the 27th if we can. If we
I
have
think it's
time.
probably,
It's up to you.
I would put it on the 13th or the 27th, I mean,
If we put it on the 13th, we can make it effective as of the date that we think it expired.
It just
we
extends.
say that it's operative, but it's still, these local laws become effective upon filing with the Secretary of State. So you got to give like a week lag between the time you adopt it and you, even though we're going to argue it's effective, because I'll put that in the resolution, I
If you put it on for Tuesday, assuming we all know we want to go forward with this, the
Yeah.
community
Yeah.
wants you to go forward with
Yeah.
this, there's really no reason to wait.
No, it's.
So you could put on notice of adoption and then everything
Yeah.
lines up exactly.
And
I mean,
the language-
ordinarily,
walk it
I
on, we
think
can
it's.
always
yeah, that's what I
table it
said,
if we
I
need
can,
to.
you can walk it
Yeah,
on.
we can do it. Ordinarily, I always think it's best to wait till the following meeting when you have a public hearing so you can process the comments and then make the determination. But for this, we've talked about it so much
Yeah,
and
we
we
kind of
all,
know where.
know
Yeah.
we need to do it. Not just
kinda
want to, but need to.
Self-prepared.
And it'll
Yeah.
go
For a
into
walk-on.
effect at the end of the current moratorium.
Right, at the
And that's
current
the
month.
word.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll
I'm in
prepare
agreement.
that, yeah,
Thank
And
you,
you'll
council.
reference the planning commission and the planning board's support for it?
sure.
So, the governor's office came out a couple days ago with the initial recommendations, and there were 15 recommendations, and it said in the press release that public comment period is open through March 5th. So how are we going to submit comments? How would we go about doing that? That's certainly prior to any of this work that we just discussed.
Well, certainly as far as our team is concerned, they've already, have this in front of them, they're digesting this, assuming that we're formally engaged, so that we're not restricted in any way from offering our input, we can prioritize, review of this and offer input. Excuse me, the date that you just mentioned, again, in March.
March 5th at 3
March 5th,
PM, the
right.
public comment period is.
So then
open
BHB
through-
could give us a letter, or a summary of recommendations, and we can put that in a letter from the town of
Or we get to see
Southampton.
it before you send it out.
Yeah. Sound good?
Yeah, that does sound
So we
good to
can
me.
add that into
Okay,
this.
so yeah, we can prioritize that, and assuming we're all,
You don't have to walk them
not
out.
restricted from doing it, we'll be happy to prioritize that, offer some
Yeah,
input
because we
early.
wouldn't be able to form a working group and review and get our own recommendations together, so it'd be nice to have input from you for certainly
Okay.
what you recommend we do about those. Well,
Sound good?
I
Are
mean,
we
it
all,
sounds good to me.
okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, no
Great.
problem. Thanks for having me. I
Thank you for
appreciate it.
coming, David,
Yeah, we
and I
look
look
forward-
forward to working with you.
Pleasure.
And we'll be back with an update, but you'll be seeing this as a resolution to move forward in the contract base if you're, after you've had a chance to review all the tasks. If you have any comments, let me know.
Okay.
So we would have a resolution to
Authorize a contract with
accept the
BHB.
proposal
Yeah,
at
I need a copy.
13th.
We could. If you're good, can we do that too? I can do that, walk on to authorize their.
As long as
contract.
contracts is good with it, yeah.
Yeah.
What does that mean, contract?
No,
They just have to they have to put it through the system and everything that they're doing with Tatiana and everything, so I'm sure we have a contract
I'll
with,
talk to her
yeah.
after this, but yeah.
And they'll
We normally
prepare it.
put our own resolutions on. They have a new process, but that doesn't change our process on the management. We still put our own consulting resolutions on. So hopefully that will all work out.
Yeah, I mean, if we
If
adopt
the
the
board is telling me
resolution.
you
I'm happy
understand
to-
the timeframe here.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
happy to move forward
fine.
as soon as we can, just so that we start the work. I mean, it's gonna be a lot to get the community together and work
Yeah.
on that phase.
Okay, so
Fine
full
with it.
steam ahead then.
Yeah, the 13th.
Mhm.
Great.
See if, if anybody has any other comments or questions about it. We
Please.
can certainly do that in between.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
in.
you.
Thank you, Janet.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it.
Yeah, that's good. Does anybody have anything they'd like to talk about in terms of updates or project updates or things you've been working on or?
Yes. Last week, myself and Supervisor Moore took a tour with Charles from the Highway Superintendent.
Yeah, we did do that. We went to all the barns.
We went to all the barns.
Charles.
And it was quite impressive. We met his goats. And a
They
lot of people-
actually have goats.
Yeah, and the goats actually eat, where they can't send men in to clean up an area, they send the goats in, poison ivy and stuff like that, so it's good to know.
Yeah.
It's all energy efficient. We went to each barn, and he showed us his goal, how he's cleaning them up, how he's cleaning the yard up, how he is, doing preventive maintenances on the vehicles, and, which is good, because it saves the town money. And if all the departments did that, we would be better off, and how he works with the other departments, with the parks, and why he needs another barn here and another barn there. It was a very good tour, and we met some of the men, who work in the highway department. We got out and talked to them. We also talked to the maintenance crew of the trustees. They showed, the supervisor how they were fixing the buoys, cleaning the buoys, and that we need more buoys for next year. It was a very good couple hours we spent on the road.
Yeah, I
Highway
agree.
Department
Yeah.
and buoys?
Marine maintenance.
Marine maintenance.
Oh, okay, oh, all right.
He's branching out.
Branching out.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Bill.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I've been touring around and going to the different departments like CPF and the trustees and the community housing, the justice court, just trying to meet everybody and get to know what they're working on, what their needs are. So I've enjoyed doing that.
On March, this year, March 22nd, 23rd, 24th, the Youth Bureau will be bringing a group up to Albany to participate in the YMCA Youth and Government State Conference. It's a really awesome event for kids where they prepare legislation and they present this legislation and debate legislation on the floor of the New York State Assembly and the New York State Senate. I'm proud to announce that West Hampton Beach has done this program with our Youth Bureau, and they are now picking it up in their school. It is one of the finest things that I've ever seen in education in my 30 years doing that. So we have a dozen kids. They've got some great bills. I'll keep you posted on that. And like I said, they're scheduled to go up in March. And I want to specifically thank Peter Strecker from the Youth Bureau and Tracy Colton for their work on this. And it's going to be a great event for the kids. It is good for kids.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the kids that went up, and it's such a great experience for them.
They're energized,
Mhm.
right? It's good.
I would just say on that, I had a meeting with Tracy Colson recently and Kara Back. And, you know, we're also thinking about how we can involve youth. The Albany trip is great because they get to know how state government works, but we're also talking about ways we can involve them to understand local government here in the town. And so we're thinking about a way that they might be able to participate in some programming, maybe shadowing us for a day or understanding how the town board meetings work, to understand how we talk about legislation and debate it and pass it, and also just the basic functions of local government, which I think is really important. And so, we're working on trying to figure out how we can include some of that programming in what the youth board does too.
That's a nice idea.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have anything you wanted to talk about?
So I met with Legislator Welker and Marcel Lease, the director of the Office of Veteran Service Agencies from the county. Many years ago, like 10 years ago, we attempted to have a satellite office for veterans out here so that they didn't have to travel to Hauppauge to, meet with representatives from the department to file claims and get updated information. We're working again, and our town clerk, Cindy Schermeyer, was with us because the office we had given them previously was in the clerk's annex in Hampton Bays. They don't have the space anymore because they're utilizing that space. But through our conversation, now that there's a satellite office in Riverhead, it's really in Hampton Bay is not necessary. We would like to bring something out here, east of the canal, so that we could service all the way to Montauk potentially. So we are working towards that. We will be providing them with office space here in Town Hall. And they will be sending somebody out. I think we're gonna start with, twice a month. And start with that and see how utilized it is, and if it grows, we can always add more days. But it was a great meeting. We also had Dave Agstrible from the American Legion was there. And Dave went through a litany of services that the Legion provides for veterans that I think many local veterans aren't aware of. So we are working with the legislator's office to try to get a compilation of those services out to the community. Karaback and our director of the senior services was there as well. And we're going to look at putting boards up in our community centers so that veterans can have a place to look and see what services are offered. What maybe, we could put these new hours up there that it's available. We can put up services offered by the Legion and the VFW. And really, because we're finding these things are underutilized, and I think a lot of veterans don't know that they're available. So it's a great initiative, and we're working towards, the logistics of it all and, the dollars and cents of it, but it's really, everyone is on board with making it happen, so I look forward to that happening.
And it's important to also mention that the reason why I think we're looking at Southampton Town Hall is because services further east is actually limited. So if we can find an access point further east for veterans, that's a really prime thing. And I just want to say that some of this work happened through discussions that occurred under legislator Bridget Fleming. David Exteribi came to me and asked how can we sort of link the town with the county on this, and it was great that legislator Ann Welker is continuing this work with Councilwoman McNamara, because it's really important that we are collaborating with the county on this. Now, is it? I was supposed to attend that meeting and I wasn't able to. I apologize. Do we know? Is it going to be modeled after what the county senior services does, where they go to the Crow-Ann Center or the Hampton Bay Senior Center a couple of times a month to sit down and talk one-on-one with veterans to offer guidance?
Yeah, we want to do meetings, and so the director had mentioned that she wants to really get out in the community more because they feel like they're missing that piece. So they want to come to our senior centers and present and make them aware of services that are available. This would be on an appointment basis,
Okay,
one-on-one.
That's great.
And we did find a location downstairs that would work beautifully, and so it would be, like I said, twice and then they open it up to more services, not just what the county does. They make them aware of, okay, you're here for this specific issue, but did you know that we offer this, this, and this? So
Great.
there's a real disconnect even with getting veterans signed up for services
Yep.
that they don't know that they're entitled to.
Right.
So I'm also reaching out to Congressman Lalota's office to work with him to streamline the process to getting veterans registered, where they're living and not near their base, because there's a disconnect there of where they're being registered and not having that peer support when they get out.
Yeah.
So,
And just one last point on this, something that gets overlooked too. I want to thank Legislator Welker's staff in particular.
Yes.
Irene Donahue, she's so excited. She was so excited after this meeting to see the collaboration between Legislator Welker and Councilwoman McNamara, and Irene just does a lot of work in that office.
and we met the new Michael Iacilli.
The new Michael, who
Who
his
is
name is
Cole.
Kolya Stremsky, great gentleman.
Great.
He kind of sounds like me on the phone. It's a little weird, but no, it's great to see that they're working really diligently to make sure that this process moves forward, and it's really amazing to see the collaboration between municipalities.
Love
That is
that.
an exciting program. A couple of questions. Would these meetings also include some of the programs that Southampton Town offers veterans? We have, right, for example, we have tax abatement initiatives for veterans, and so it would help them with paperwork and kind of evaluating whether or not they qualify.
So when we met with Director Lees, basically she was unaware of some of the things that we offer, and that was a big piece of that, is getting them a list of things that we offer as a town to residents, so that they could make sure that, they're aware of this, because they're meeting with Hampton Bays residents in Riverhead already. And they weren't aware of some of the services that we offer, so we're making that information available to them so that they can, when they counsel one-on-one, they can make sure that they know that they're taking advantage of
Right,
those.
veterans discounts. We even have, I think, 6 parking spaces specific for veterans in and around town facilities, so that is fantastic. Also, in our housing intake form, we have a box for veterans. So, that can be taken into consideration as well. That's great.
That's all good stuff.
Yep.
And thank you for that. And Michael and I, last night, we attended a CAC West meeting, and it was very well attended, and Ryan Murphy and Chief Kiernan joined us as well.
Tracy Colson,
Tracy and
Laura Pettit.
Laura Pettit was there also, and they, they had a lot of questions about a lot of different projects and areas, and I think we were able to address a lot of their concerns.
Yeah, it's just good to hear from the community.
Mm-hmm.
Good to listen.
Oh, and one last thing, we did place an ad. The interested individuals in the town are urged to apply for various positions on the town's boards and committees. Ads were placed in the Southampton Press Eastern and Western editions last week, and also in today's editions. And people are encouraged to follow the instructions in the ad to contact us and apply. Oh, that's it then. So now we're going to go into executive session to discuss confidential legal advice and contracts. So I
I'll
need
make
a
a
motion
motion.
to
I made a
do
motion.
that and then
Second.
close. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do we get a small number?